Hello. If you don't know what the Bloomin Read-a-thon is, it's a readathon that's spanning the whole month of November, and it's organized by two wonderful people, Allyvee and Kirstea. I love their YouTube videos, check them out. I'll link their TBR vids and their channels in the description. We've got 25 prompts and I have 25 books. There's no way I'm finishing 25 books in 24 days left in November, but I can try. For the first prompt, we have B.
You like jazz?
Any book on your shelf that has a lot of buzz. And so for the first book, I chose Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I heard about this, I think, through BookTube, just popping up on my Goodreads and Book Talk compilations on YouTube. It's Japanese lit, it seems wholesome, it has cafe vibes. I'm excited for this one. Second is The Cloud Spot. And The Cloud is a book you assume will make you emotional. For this, I chose Heaven by Meiko Kawakami. In this book, a 14-year-old boy is subjected to relentless torment for having a lazy eye. Instead of resisting, he chooses to suffer in silence. The only person who understands what he is going through is a female classmate, Kojima, who experiences similar treatment at the hands of her bullies, providing each other with immeasurable consolation at a time in their lives when they need it most. The two young friends grow closer than ever. But what ultimately is the nature of a friendship when your shared bond is terror? I know this is the second book that's Japanese lit in the first two books I have, but I promise that not everything here is Japanese lit. Okay, we have two more. Okay, no, there's three more. Three more Japanese lit, but two of those are Murakami. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The third prompt is Sun, and Sun is a happy book. So for this book, I chose a comedy, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You've got a two-headed, three-armed ex-hippie, a totally out-to-lunch president of the galaxy, a paranoid, brilliant, and chronically depressed robot, a former graduate student obsessed with the disappearance of all the ballpoint pens he's bought over the years. It's just so... Ooh. The fourth prompt is Moon, any book from outside the country you're in. And so for this, I made sure to choose a book that's not set in either America, the UK, or Japan, or the Philippines. The fourth because I live there, and the first three because I read a lot of books from there. And so this one is set in Africa, and it's called The Lower River. The fifth prompt is Tree, and that's any book that's non-fic, and I haven't finished the bookshop book, so it's gonna be the fifth. Sixth is The Sun, and The Sun is a book about friendship. And for this, I picked Lonely Castle in the Mirror, another Japanese lit book, one of the books I'm reading from Allyvee's favorites. It's near the top of my list of these 25 books, but I don't want to read only Japanese lit, so I'll think about prioritizing the books. For the seventh spot, we have Cactus, anything that's a non-needy read. I think non-needy, I think fantasy. One of my favorite fantasy trilogies, The Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which is also by her. But so that I don't reread something, I chose Vicious instead. Ooh, for the eighth we have... Oh, I'm not gonna try pronouncing it because I'm stuttering already today. I think because I drank coffee. But yeah, for this, it is a book that is a rare book. For this, I chose The Betrayed, with only 26 ratings on Goodreads. Good ratings, but only 26. This is local lit, and I guess that's why it's not as known internationally. It's fiction, but one of the reviews said it covers well politics, social class, and religion here in the Philippines. So I guess, based on themes in general, just so that I mix everything up, I'll put this as one of the ones in the priority list. So number 9 is propagation adaptation, any screenplay or book to movie. And the first book that came to mind easily was Dune by Frank Herbert. The movie came out recently. It's sci-fi, and it's a very classic sci-fi book. I haven't gotten into a long series fantasy or sci-fi book yet, usually just trilogies. I also have Outlander waiting to be... Ooh, I could read Outlander instead. Okay, scratch that. Okay. Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Goodbye, Dune. Huh, I think I'm a few pages in actually. Next is number 10, Spider, and that is any book with dark themes. The book I wanted for this was actually My Dark Vanessa, but I don't have my copy yet, so instead I chose The Good Children by Rupa Farooqui. In 1940s Lahore, two brothers and two sisters are beaten and browbeaten into good children. What made me pick it up was the characters. Sully, damaged and brilliant; Jackie, irreverent and passionate; cynical May, and soft-hearted Lana, outshone and too easily dismissed. For 11, we have Lotus, which is a book that features disability. It made me want to reread A Little Life again, but instead I chose Infinite Home. Widowed landlord Edith rents apartments in her Brooklyn brownstone to an unlikely collection of humans. Ollie, a curiously disabled man. Edward, a misanthrope stand-up comic. Adeline, a beautiful and haunted agoraphobe. And Thomas, a young artist recovering from a stroke. Again, characters, interesting characters. I'm starting to think cupping 30 grams of coffee and having a 15-gram faux presso shot all in one afternoon was a bad idea when I haven't had coffee in like a week. Anyway, I don't want to do this book. Number 12, Succulent. A book that makes you steamy. I was thinking, okay, I'll choose a book that makes me angry, but I don't really know until I read the book. How about emotional? I already have a book to make me emotional. So, I had to choose steamy in the steamy sense. I was thinking 50 Shades, but I'm saving that because I was planning to start off a terrible book club where we read terrible books. Instead, I looked at all my books. I saw the book that I've had for like 2 years, I think, or 3 years. Can you see I'm delaying because I don't want to show the book? This is a book that I've had in my shelf for a long time now, turned out so that the spine is facing where I can't see it. But it is this book. Now, as to why I have this book, I blame Vincent, one of my oldest friends. He gave it to me for Christmas because I kept giving him Frozen and Barbie notebooks that he would use in college, which, looking back, is no big deal. It's just a notebook. But now I have to read this, and I promised him I'd read it eventually. So I guess I'm gonna read it this month. It's fanfic. It's like a printed out Wattpad book. There's nothing wrong with fanfic. It's just that there's a wide range to it. There are some really good ones, and then there's a lot of wild ones. And it's so long. Why is this so long? It's small print. I hate you, Vincent. I mean, I want to be proven wrong. If this is actually good, I'll chug a whole bottle of Tabasco. It's cursed. It's cursed. Okay, something that's less cursed. For prompt 13, it's just a free space, so I chose Watch Over Me. Mila is used to being alone. Maybe that's why she said yes. Yes to a second chance in this remote place among the flowers and the fog and the crash of waves far below. But she hadn't known about the ghosts. Now I'll just stop it there. Part of the reason why I chose this book was Allyvee's favorites. Just another one to knock off the list. The second unreasonably bigger reason for choosing this book is a couple weeks ago my friends and I watched the movie The Boy. It was supposed to be spooky for spooky season, Halloween, but it was so bad. There's like 3 good jump scares in it. It starts off as a supernatural, like Annabelle vibes, and then it turns into a psychological horror, and then it turns into a cheap, cheesy slasher film, and all of it's really bad. I wanna watch it and just cringe at it. I guess you can watch it, but you can watch something better like Corpse Bride or something. But same premise, like the main character in The Boy was getting away from something, went to like remote estate to watch over this boy. Same starting premise, not really, and I'm just hoping this redeems what my hopes was for that movie. Damn, that movie was just weird. Number 14, Lily. A book that that's a book that covers grief or death. For this prompt, I have a really good recommendation, and that's A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Or if you want to watch a movie, it's also a really, really good movie that has what's his name? The Taken. Fallout 3, Liam Neeson there. It has him as a tree, as a talking tree. Monster Calls deals with grief really, really well, especially from the perspective of a young boy. Such a good movie and such a good book. It's such a short book, but like emotions are just gonna. If you haven't read that book or watched that movie, you really should do so. But for this prompt, since I finished that, I chose The Weight of Heaven. I chose this in part because of grief and death, but also in part that it's a reverse of A Monster Calls. When Frank and Ellie Benton lose their only child, 7-year-old Benny, to a sudden illness, the perfect life they had built is shattered. I feel like saying I'm excited for this book is a wrong word to use, but I'm looking forward to this book to see the perspectives it can give from these characters and seeing how they deal with this grief. It feels like something that's gonna be so insightful, but also emotionally You know, I feel like a lot of these books actually would have fit that second prompt, which is Cloud. You know, a book that you assume will make you emotional. I could have probably put a lot of those books for this. Yeah. Yeah, I need happier books. I think I need happier books. I don't know. Anyway, let's carry on. 15. Sorry, this has been in every video I've made so far. Killing Comentador. Oh yeah, the 15th slot is Snail, which is a slow burner, and it's definitely a slow burn. As far as Murakami goes, one of his biggest books is 1Q84, and it's a thick book. Wait, I'll show you how thick it is. This is 1Q84. Look at that. And it's tiny, tiny font. Technically 3 books, but you read it as 1 book. But even then, as 3 books, barely anything happens. And I saw a review on Goodreads complaining about how there's so many scenes of the characters just cooking. But I guess that's like a staple. It's not really plot driven, it's very character driven and just world building and this magical realism. That's a Murakami book for you. It's not for everyone. If you really need a fast-paced action, it's not for you, but I like it. 16. Water. An author you're thirsty for more of. Sorry, it's another Murakami book. The Elephant Vanishes is a short story collection. A man sees his favorite elephant vanish into thin air. A newlywed couple suffers attacks of hunger that drive them to hold up a makdo in the middle of the night, and the young woman discovers that she has become irresistible to a little green monster who burrows up through her backyard. Look at this copy. I bought this second hand and you can tell it's old. It smells like,
Yeah.
Sorry, it smells like, what is it?
And something new was created.
Like fake vanilla. Is this what we've come to? Just devolved into sniffing secondhand book? I don't... knowledge. We're almost done. Let me take a sip of water first. 17. Fertilizer. A book that will nourish you. A book I would recommend for this, if you haven't read it, is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Laurie Gottlieb. But the book I chose for this is You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. I learned about this book 3 years ago when a friend at the time was reading it, and now that person is one of my closest friends. So it's about time that I read this book, I think. I also got Maybe You Should Talk to Someone from her, so I trust her taste. 18. Green Carnation. Any book with LGBTQ themes. I don't have any specifically focused on those themes. A lot of my books have it, but it isn't a central focus, and honestly, this isn't either. This book is contemporary fiction, thriller, mystery. Reviews honestly aren't that good in Goodreads, but it's on my shelf. There is an LGBT character in the cast of all the characters, so Green Carnation. Number 19. Tulip. A book featuring love. Oscar is a sweet but overweight sci-fi obsessed introvert who, from the New Jersey home he shares with his old world mother and rebellious sister, dreams of becoming the Dominican J.R.R. Tolkien, and, most of all, of finding love. I think this was a really popular book years ago, and sniff test. That was a bad idea. But you know, I'll bite. I myself am not sci-fi obsessed, nor am I looking for love at all. But what? Okay, I think I'm just losing it. I'm sleepy. I've been wanting to read this. That's a story with most of the books here. I've been wanting to read this for a long time. Anyway, 20. Oh, it's 20. Okay, Ladybug. A book that looks cute but might ruin your life. Ooh, The Boy in Striped Pajamas by John Boyne. Ooh. I think this was required reading for so many people in 4th grade. It's set in Germany during World War II. It's very readable, it's very accessible, and with the heavy themes, it's like it gets you off guard. I can't wait to reread this. Number 21. Root, or Return to Your Roots. This is basically a reread spot. It's my excuse to add American Gods to the list because I haven't finished it yet. If The Boy in Striped Pajamas I read in 4th grade as required reading for school. I read this in 3rd grade, and I probably shouldn't have read it in 3rd grade. 30 pages in, things get wild. Things get graphic. It is steamy, but not in the good sense. No. Okay. 22. Earth. A book that takes place or was published before the 90s. So I've got an interesting one for this. A Clockwork Orange. This is the same book, 2 different copies, 2 different blurbs, which I guess makes sense. So let me read you one, and then the other, and then tell me what you think. For this one, teen gang leader Alex narrates in fantastically inventive slang that echoes the violent intensity of youth rebelling against society. A Clockwork Orange is a frightening fable about good and evil and the meaning of human freedom. But this one, 15-year-old Alex doesn't just like ultraviolence. He also enjoys rape, drugs, and Beethoven's Ninth. Like, how is this? What? This was published in 1962. Oh, but this was... Oh no, 1996. Because this one has an introduction from 1996. But anyway, rest of the blurb. He and his gang rampage through a dystopian future, hunting for terrible thrills. But when Alex finds himself at the mercy of the state and subject to the ministrations of Dr. Brodsky, the government psychologist, he discovers that fun is no longer the order of the day. So yeah, that's for a book that takes place or is published before the 90s. Hardly the most interesting thing about it, but it's just... What? Okay, last 3 books. I'll try to stop. Okay. For 23, it is Allyvee, which is the highest rated book you own. So as I mentioned earlier, the highest rated book is The Betrayed. 26 ratings and an average of 481 out of 5 in Goodreads. But since there's only 26 ratings, I looked at the next one, which is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. And this has a 4.36 average, but with 451,000 plus ratings. I mean, it's young adult, so kind of skewed. I don't mind it. I read the first book and I really liked it 2 years ago. I liked the topics of this before. It's a YA fantasy romance, which kind of irks me. If you compare A Darker Shade of Magic, it has some romance, but it nowhere takes over the plot, whereas this, I feel like, affects the plot more, and it could be so much more, but now it's time. 24 is Dandelion, a book that's been on your shelf forever that you can't seem to get rid of. So I had 2 ideas for this. One was Lolita, because I started that multiple times, never finished it. But also Catch-22, which I've also started multiple times, but have never gotten past page 60. Number 25. Number 25 is The Mole, any book with a strong antagonist. This book is 3 Years with the Rat by Jay Hosking. After several years of drifting between school and go-nowhere jobs, a young man is drawn back into the big city of his youth. The magnet is his beloved older sister, Grace, always smart and charismatic even when she was rebelling, and always his hero. But it soon becomes clear that all is not well with Grace. A visit to their mother triggers an episode that suggests Grace has stumbled into serious mental illness. When Grace disappears, the narrator embarks on a mission to discover the truth, a quest that brings him up against an astonishing question. If the universe is infinite, could there be infinite variations of ourselves, in a dimension only a few can even imagine? And if there are, and we could enter that dimension, what might confront us? You may be asking, where's the antagonist here? The biggest antagonist here is ourselves, and just the uncertainties we hold in this uncertain universe. So, that's the book I'm ending my TBR with. That pretty much wraps up my whole Bloomin Read TBR. But before you go, I have 2 super quick announcements. The first is that I currently have 3 art prints up for sale, which you can buy through the Malaya Initiative's Sketchbook for 𝙬𝙤𝙜𝙤𝙦. So if you want to buy my art, learn more about the project, check out who the beneficiary is for this wave, or see what the other artists have in store, I'll leave links down below. The second announcement is that I will be opening up 3 or 4 slots for commissions for November. So this will be for my 4x6 watercolor paintings. If you're interested in getting a painting from me, drop me a DM on Instagram so we can talk about all the details. And also free shipping nationwide. So I guess that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you have a good week. Drink water, get some sleep, and goodbye. Peace.